This is From Courtroom to Carline, the podcast where we discuss life as a lawyer and a parent.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Rick.
Your hosts and partners both in the courtroom and in parenting.
Join us as we navigate the fascinating worlds of law and family life.
Now, this is not legal advice, but in every episode, From Courtroom to Carline is a delightful blend of legal insight and parenting hilarity. Get
ready for a roller coaster ride where law meets love and where the gavel meets the car line. Welcome to another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. Today we've got my good buddy Chris Lancaster on the show. He is a personal injury attorney here in Seminole, Florida, born and raised in Pinellas County. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys. Good to see you.
Yes, you too.
So, obviously we're all attorneys. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you in terms of if they need help with their personal injury case and how you sort of started your law firm?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm local here in St. Pete, so I have two office locations. My main office is off of 4th Street near Gandy, and I've been practicing personal injury law for 9 years, almost 10 years, running my own firm. And how I got started, after law school, I got a job at the public defender's office and spent a good 3.5 years there learning how to be a good trial attorney. And then after that, I worked for some insurance defense firms in Tampa for a little bit. I worked for a personal injury firm down in Sarasota for 2 years, and then decided to open up my own firm.
That's great. So, obviously I first met you when you were at the public defender's office and I was just starting out. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your experience there and why you think the public defender's office helped you sort of where you're at now and doing personal injury cases?
Yeah, I think that made a big difference in my life and my professional life as well. Coming out of law school and passing the bar, that's a heck of an accomplishment. So we all kind of know the law when we're getting started, but walking into a courtroom and feeling that energy and representing real people and people that are really in need of your help, it means a lot. It means a lot to them, and also you want to do good for them. It's a very rewarding type of job in certain aspects. Obviously, you don't get too many thank yous sometimes, but you're always trying to do the best you can to be the best advocate that you can be for each client there. So starting off, all I wanted to do was be there for my clients and try as many cases as I could. So I think I had 20 jury trials my first year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Mr. Dillinger, Bob D, bumped me up to felony real quick, and I think I had the highest caseload in felony for a year, and learned what burnout means as a lawyer.
Yeah,
because that was pretty intense for a good stretch. But I got through it, and I would say that experience, that 3.5 years of being a public defender, made me a very good lawyer, taught me how to try cases the right way. And you know how it is, the more you do it, the better and better you get. Looking people in the eye, looking a jury in the eye, just being yourself, being sincere, and trying to advocate for your clients as best you can.
Now, one of the things that we see a lot, people jump from the public defender's office or the state attorney's office to insurance defense firms. That's obviously what you did when you left the public defender's office. What was that experience like, and why did you make that jump from the public sector to defense?
Yeah, I think as much as I liked or learned to love criminal defense, I always wanted to go into the civil side of law coming out of law school. So I had this dream of running my own firm someday, and it just kind of started to manifest itself, even though I didn't know it was happening. I knew that if I switched to civil, and there's a lot of insurance defense jobs available in Tampa, that would be a good place to start to figure out the nuances in insurance laws and how claims are, started from the beginning to end, what the process is like in general. So I got a job in Tampa and worked a pretty tough caseload of insurance claims, medical malpractice, nursing home disputes, and some other injury claims as well. So I learned how to, what the insurance companies look for on that side of the fence before switching over and working for a plaintiff's firm in Sarasota, where I got a totally different perspective of how are you going to help this person that just got in an accident that needs you to help put their life back together in different aspects.
How valuable is it to kind of be inside an insurance defense firm and know how they value cases and what they look for to either increase the value or what they look for to decrease the value of a case?
It's a great question. It makes a huge difference knowing what they want. So when I was doing insurance defense, I understood like what the process was with their analysis of every single claim. And so being on the plaintiff's side, I know what to give the insurance companies in order to build up the case and make sure that they have everything they need to properly evaluate a claim. And ultimately, that results in better settlement figures for my clients.
When you made the decision to open your own firm, did you have any reservations? What was going through your mind?
Well, I would say it was probably around 2015. I was working at a plaintiff's firm in Sarasota, and I was always talking to my wife. I'm like, I had like this 3-year plan. Like, I'm going to try this for about 3 years and then try to open my own firm. And or at least maybe open up my own branch in St. Pete, because I'm local here. I was born in St. Petersburg. I always wanted to be an attorney in this community, in this area, because I love it so much. And it just kind of happened, even when I didn't really know it was happening. I spent a good 2 years at that firm and learned how to handle plaintiffs' cases very well. Tried, plaintiffs' personal injury jury trials and was successful there. And just got to that point where, you get that feeling like you only live once, might as well go for it. And my wife was like, Chris, you should do it. Go for it. And so it was 2016, March 1st, 2016 is when I opened my own firm. And 9 years later, here I am.
I remember when I was getting ready to leave the public defender's office, my loans were forgiven. And I was like, do I, join Rick? Obviously, I wanted to be my, own boss, but it was nerve-wracking. So I was like, let me just go interview with another attorney, another firm. And I went to that interview, and it was okay. But I was like, if this attorney can do what I have done the past 10 years doing, why am I going to sell myself short and go work for somebody else? And,
Sure.
Just like you said, you got that experience working with another firm, gaining that experience. Why not be in charge of your own caseload, be your own boss, and build your own legacy?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the motivation. I learned how to handle the cases very well. And, it was a blessing learning from other attorneys and other experienced attorney who had been doing it for a while. But I wanted to do it my own way, in my own neighborhood, essentially. And that's why I decided to make the move and start my own firm. And it's been really rewarding. Over time, obviously you guys have been through law school too. It's like they don't teach you how to run a firm in law school. So there's a lot of real world experience that you kind of have to go through to get to that point where you're like, okay, this is how it works. I get it. And at the end of the day, you just got to be yourself and be a good person, tell the truth, and try to help people as much as you can. Follow the golden rule, put yourself in the shoes of your client.
Absolutely.
If I was in need, what would I want a lawyer to do for me? How would I want to be treated? So that's what I try to follow every day, helping people out.
So being in business for 9 years, are there any tips that you can give our listeners if they're trying to, start their own firm? Like, what advice would you give them starting out?
Yeah, well, if you know what you're doing, that's step one. If you know the law and you know how cases are handled, whether it's criminal defense or civil, that's step one. And then step two is just having the courage to go for it, and just kind of knowing yourself. We all are on a different path in life, and some of us have lots of children, and we're in different places and stages in life, but it's just really about your risk tolerance. So everybody has a different level of, okay, am I able to just kind of get up and go for it? So that's a question that everybody needs to ask themselves. And personally, yeah, I was nervous about starting my own firm, but I had a fire in me and I just wanted to kind of go for it. So I did. And that's what pushed me to start my firm.
So obviously, you're married, you're raising a family. How has, that helped support you in running your firm?
Well, ultimately, I mean, that's my purpose in life is to be a good dad, a good husband, and to help people. And I think ultimately that's what I try to do across the board. You know, I want to be there for my family. I want to be there for my clients. I was joking with my daughter, Sierra, the other day. We were driving in the car, and she's like, Dad, what are the 2 most important days of your life? And I'm like, what, Sierra? She said, the day you were born, and then the day when you realized why you were born.
I love that. And
then she made a joke. She's like, well, what's the worst day of your life? I'm like, what is it, Sierra? She's like, well, the day you start paying taxes. But yeah, this is the big picture for me. What's your why? What's your motivation? What's your purpose? And we all have to find that for ourselves. You know, I put my trust in God first, and I try to be a good person and help other people. And it really is so rewarding when you can do a good job for your clients. And I know you've experienced this too. It's like, it feels good. And you know, that's what motivates me to keep going.
One of the things that I'm sure Jenna wants to ask you about is the homeschooling. So you homeschool your daughter. Can you sort of tell our viewers how you came to that decision and how that's worked out for you so far?
Yeah, through my own experience. You know, my mom and dad were both lawyers. You know, they met at USF. My mom went to Florida State Law. My dad went to Stetson Law. But when I was about 3 years old, my mom decided to start homeschool, to stay at home, to stop practicing law, and ended up having 7 kids. So 5 boys, 2 girls in the family. And my dad went into insurance defense and was a very successful trial attorney before going into mediations and all of that. So growing up, I had 2 parents that were attorneys, and my mom was very driven to give us the best education possible. So my whole family, we were all homeschooled growing up.
So I think, for me, I grew up in, my parents separated, and I lived mostly with my mom. I would see my dad on the weekends, and my mom was very work-driven. She wanted to make sure that she was able to, provide for me, and so I saw that growing up, and I just had that feeling of, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be self-sufficient, I don't need a man to support me, I'm going to do it all on my own. And then, it surprised me once we started having kids. I still love the law, and obviously I love what I do, but I find myself struggling more with, would I stay home if I had the chance to? Should I stay home? Should we homeschool? I love, where our kids are going to school now. They're, have the opportunity to learn about God and be raised in the faith.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those struggles that I didn't know I was going to struggle with, especially just having, the upbringing that I had. So one of the compromises that Rick and I made this school year was we used to do aftercare. I said, we're not going to do aftercare this year. We're going to pick them up just so that I have that extra time with them. But I am very always intrigued at the parents that homeschool, and it's definitely something that, do I see myself doing one day? Maybe.
Sure.
But I think it's an amazing opportunity to give your children.
Yeah, you could absolutely do it if you wanted to, and it really boils down, you love your kids so much. And you don't realize that until you have them, and then they grow up, and you're like, you just want the best for them.
Yes.
And if it's right for your family, it's certainly getting easier and easier these days. As opposed to when I grew up, there were curriculums that you could follow, and we would take tests and send them off to a teacher up north, and she would grade them and send them back. So there was some structure there for our education. But now there's a million different types of curriculums. Some are faith-based and others are not. But however you want to do it, there's a lot of options and things available out there for families to homeschool their kids. A lot of co-ops. We're in 3 or 4 different co-ops. So my daughter's schedule is as busy as mine. I mean, she's out and about meeting different kids and families all the time. And, and you can go as fast or as slow as you need to for your kid. Nobody knows your kids better than you.
Yeah.
As the parent. So we're really able to, we have a lot of flexibility homeschooling, so we can go on vacations if we need to and then catch up in the summer. It's just, it really works for us.
I remember I talked to your brother Bobby this was probably a few years ago now when I was still at the public defender's office, and I said, I really don't want my kids, on screens. Did you guys like have screens? And he was like, there's books for homeschooling. There are other options, and like you said, there's co-ops. But it's just definitely something for us to take into consideration and keep in mind. Because again, I just think it's like you said, kids are so important. How how your kids are raised and what they're raised in, and it's just something that I throw around every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, it does require a certain level of sacrifice.
Yes.
My wife was a teacher. So she had that experience, but she stopped working when Sierra turned like 2.5, 3 years old, to just stay at home full time, and then we started the homeschooling. So yes, that puts more pressure on me, but I was happy to do it for my kid, and I think it was best for our family at the time. So, and I always like things that are motivational, so that motivated me to really up my game and level up with my firm and try to do better and work harder. So.
And you mentioned it gives you the flexibility. You're not, stuck to a 9 to 5, routine. I saw that you recently took your daughter up to Notre Dame for a football game.
Yes.
That looked like a fantastic time. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was that her first football game? Had she been up there before?
That was her first, college football experience. We have gone to some high school games, but I was telling her ahead of time, this is not like the high school games. This is massive. So it was so nice to get away with her and have those types of meaningful moments with her, because we went to Chicago first. We flew into Chicago and toured the city.
Nice.
And then we drove to South Bend the next day and spent 2 nights there, and just touring Notre Dame. It's a beautiful campus, a lot of history and tradition there. And when the game was almost over, she almost started crying because she didn't want it to end.
Oh.
And she's like,
can
we go to the game next week too? I'm like, I don't know about that, but that was really nice that we were able to do that. And being homeschooled helps because we're not required to get to school,
yes,
on a certain day or time. I can take a few days off here and there if I need to.
I remember the last time we went to a college football game, our youngest hadn't been born yet, so we just had the 2 older ones, and they were still young, and we picked a 3:30 game, a very low-key game towards the end of the season where it was cooler weather, and I think both were asleep by halftime, and then we're having to, get some sort of person to bike us back to the hotel, and it's a different experience when you go up there with little ones compared to, if you'd grown up going to the football games or, going to college. So it's a much different experience.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been to Florida State games. I've been to Michigan State games, Notre Dame games. It's different when you're younger without kids, for sure. But you want them to experience it too. And,
Sure.
She's 8 years old, so I think she got a lot out of it. She'll remember it.
Yes.
Great memories all the way around.
So outside of law, changing gears just a little bit, I know that you're into races, obstacle course races. Tell us a little bit about that and why you do that.
Yeah, I think part of why I'm successful as an attorney is because I try to take care of my own health. Mm-hmm. Staying healthy is so important. Trying to avoid, in the profession, there's a lot of substance abuse issues. There's a lot of traps that you could fall into. So, I've always recognized those things. So just taking care of my own health has been a priority for me. And so I try to exercise as much as I can. And, doing the Spartan obstacle course races has been really great because I can do one every 3 or 4 months. And it's just motivation to keep eating right, to keep exercising and staying healthy. And I found that the healthier I am, the better I feel and sleep and think. I'm more successful with work. Things click faster. My brain works at a higher trajectory maybe. I don't know. But it certainly helps being a lawyer, staying healthy with working in a stressful type of job.
No, absolutely. I am very big into herbals and supplements. Yeah. I tell Rick he's going to take my tinctures, and thank goodness he just kind of goes along with it. But I think it's just important, to stay as natural as possible. Like you said, there is a lot of substance abuse. One of the things that this year I said, I just don't want to drink. Not that I, ever really had much to drink, but we'd have the occasional, glass of wine. And it's just, operate at the highest level, you
Yeah.
know, when I can. And now I have kids, and I think it's just, especially as we get older, just to keep our bodies as healthy as possible is extremely important. I like to walk. I'm not a runner.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's good though.
Rick and I will go on you know, walks, family walks, again, just to stay active.
Yeah.
And now that the boys are getting older, I'm definitely getting challenged more and more each day, whether it's, you know, keeping up and, you know, playing football, whatever sport that they're
Yes.
playing. That definitely keeps me in shape to a certain extent. I'm dreading the day that they, you know, kind of overtake me in terms of athletic ability. You know,
Yeah.
we're not there yet,
Yep.
but that's definitely something that, you know, it's gonna really like hit home when that day comes, but it's not yet.
It's so much fun though being active with your kids, isn't it? I
Yes.
love that. Like when Sierra was in track and field, I know you guys had your kids
Yep.
in the track that year as well. I was volunteering to help the track coach out just so I could get a workout and then also
go.
be there for Sierra and the kids. It was really fun. I loved it. You know, and I also play at an adult rec basketball league once a week.
Nice.
So it's a competitive basketball league. So that's another thing that keeps me motivated. It's like, Chris, you got to keep eating right. You got to, you know,
Yes.
keep running and stay fit enough to keep sprinting down the court and playing ball. So.
It helps having brothers too, because I remember when I was working at the PD's office with your brother Bobby, there might have been one or two occasions where we went and played basketball, maybe in the court at Feather Sound or
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that.
My
And
gosh,
Bobby
yeah.
had some game. I was pretty impressed.
Bobby-
He was definitely a good point guard. I
Yeah,
could see that.
He played college ball with me up in Virginia.
Wow,
And
okay.
man, he would go all out, especially on defense. He would lock people down out there. So all of us boys were very competitive in my family, and it comes from my dad. You know, he was always my dad was a great athlete, and he always encouraged us to do as many sports as possible. So growing up, as we were homeschooled, we did track and field, basketball, karate, along with piano lessons and music and everything like that too. So we got a pretty well-rounded upbringing growing up.
I feel like we do a pretty good job of having our boys, you know, try all sorts of sports, all sorts of activities. But I feel more and more now you see parents kind of having their child focus in on one thing and being a master at it, and not really exposing them to the variety of different things. You know, especially with how, you know, travel, you know, baseball or travel sports has taken off. You know, what do you think? Do you think it's better that they just focus on one sport, or do you think that you should kind of expose them to, you know, a variety of team sports and sort of let them enjoy, you know, pick and choose what they like best?
Yeah, I agree more so with that. Let them try everything and see what they like the most. I don't want to be that dad that pushes the kid to do the one sport and just stress them out. You know, I want them to enjoy sports, kind of like how I did growing up. So we try to, like, obviously open up the options for Sierra and say, hey, you want to do karate this year? You want to do track? You want to play basketball? And if she says yes, we go for it. And it's great. You know, she learns how to be a team player, and it's great exercise and a lot of learning experiences. You know, you don't always win.
Yeah.
So it's part of life, and sports really helps you kind of understand different things. Just going through the different leagues and everything.
One of the things I'm trying to get better at is still realizing how young they are and that
Yes.
it's still a game, right? So they're playing baseball right now, and I'm helping out as a coach when I can, and I'll find myself kind of being a little bit too intense, and I have to sort of calm myself down, especially when I'm in the dugout and, you know, the kids are, you know, acting like kids, right? They're kicking the baseball around or jumping up and down or being goofy. And, you know, the competitive part of me wants to tell them, hey, focus on the game, you know, try to learn, you know, but at the same time, you got to let them have fun, and
Sure.
you got to let them be a kid, and you don't want to take that sort of innocence away too soon,
Right.
because it's eventually going to come where, hey, it is just, we got to win, we got to make the team. And so I still like to see them sort of not care about the result as much.
I mean, you always want them to do their best.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you play to win the game, right?
Yes.
At least that's how I've always looked at sports and everything. But yeah, you want them to be good sports as well. If you knock a kid over, help him up,
Yes.
and be a
Yes.
good person, and not be too cutthroat when it comes to
Yeah.
just winning at all costs. I'm not that kind of person. I don't want my kid to be like that either. But yeah, the competitive spirit, man, I feel you there. I've always, especially playing college basketball, I've always gotten into it with referees. And I've always had to kind of check myself,
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm past that. I'm 42 years old now. Well, I'm in this rec league now, and I'm still having to check myself. So, but yeah, it's just a process of maturing, I guess. And you want to set a good example for your kids too. So I get you.
Are there any, again, switching gears, are there any books, documentaries that you're into at the moment? Anything you'd recommend?
Well, I listen to a lot of YouTube self-help, podcasts and different, there's a lot of different motivational type speakers, depending on what you need.
Yeah.
It's amazing what's available if you just go out and look for it. Anything that kind of just gets you up and going is good. I try to stay positive, every week, and just be very mindful, and you start your week off with prayer too. I mean, just to get your mind right and
Absolutely.
put your stress in God's hands. So that's been a big part of having a good focus on life in general, and I think it just helps me run my law firm better as well too, having that right mindset.
You mentioned, starting off the day with prayer. One of the topics that's coming up in church in these next few weeks is tithing. The 10%, and they're making a point to say it's not the leftover 10%, it's the first 10%. So to your point, like, when you first wake up in the morning, that first time should be, with God, because, he wants your first 10%, not, at the end of the day, what time do you have left, or what finances do you have left?
Right.
He doesn't want the leftovers. He wants the first. So,
Yeah.
like you said, starting off the day with
Positive
God is
mindset.
definitely an important thing, and something that we try to do and instill in our kids.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and it does make a huge difference. I mean, yeah, anytime, life gets so busy and our schedules get packed and everything, but at the end of the day, just having your mind focused on God and starting the week off and the day off the right way makes a huge difference, and it's way more fulfilling to live like that, I think,
Absolutely.
than otherwise.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Chris. Well, hey, thank you for coming on the show. We're going to have a segment called What Happened to Florida Man? And so we want you to participate.
Okay.
And before we cut, where can our
Oh, yes.
viewers find you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I promote my law firm. You can call my cell anytime if you get into an accident. So I'm 727-743-9022. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, at Lancaster Law, or Lancaster Law Firm. And I'm happy to help anybody that ever wants to talk and get their legal options after an accident. I've been doing it for a while, and always just want to do my very best for anybody that asks for help.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
and
you.
so stay tuned for our next segment on What Happened to Florida Man. So for this segment on What Happened to Florida Man, we're going to talk about a case right here in Hillsborough County. So, Chris, we're going to take you back to your criminal law days.
Okay.
And talk about a case of the guy who stole an ambulance, took police on a high-speed chase, and then towards the end decided that he wanted to go out with a bang and chug his last beer before his arrest.
Okay, so there was some alcohol related to
It
this?
was definitely alcohol related.
Okay.
I think that probably played a factor into the choice of vehicle that he stole.
Yes.
And so not a smart move on his part, because typically theft of a motor vehicle is a third-degree felony. It's a level 4 offense, so you're not scoring prison right off the bat. But because he took an ambulance, it raised the degree to a second-degree felony, made it a level 7 offense, and that was a very significant charge that he was facing. The other charges he was facing was a felony DUI, so he had, I think, had 3 prior DUIs, and then a habitual traffic offender, both of which are third-degree felonies, and fleeing to elude law enforcement. And so at the end of it all, he did not go to trial. which is probably a smart decision on his part.
Right.
But he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, followed by 2 years of community control,
Okay.
followed by 5 years of probation.
Ooh.
So not only did this gentleman get a hefty prison sentence, but he also got a lot of supervision to follow. So it looks like on the Florida sentencing guidelines, he was scoring 92 months at the bottom of the guidelines. So this actually ended up being a downward, what we call a downward
Yeah.
departure sentence, which means that the prosecutor agreed to it.
Okay.
So, Chris, kind of going back to your roots at the PD's office, do you think that this guy got a fair sentence, a reasonable sentence based on the facts?
Gosh, it sounds like he made a bad decision, first of all.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What a rough night. My gosh, all those charges. You know, yeah, I mean, there's the guidelines are one thing, but yeah, you always have a judge that's going to want to see to make sure that they're given a fair sentence. You know, I think all things considered, being on probation after you get out
Yes.
of prison isn't always a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, we all know that because it's not easy being on felony probation. So they're going to be keeping track of this guy for some time. So he might, you never know, if he hasn't learned his lesson, he might end up back
In prison.
back in court or in prison, depending on his lifestyle choices.
And so our viewers know community control is like house arrest. So you can't leave your house unless it's for something essential like work or school or, you know.
So he's given house arrest, probation. I mean, he got it all.
Yes. So, well, we might have to check in on this one 5 years down the road to see if he makes it. So,
Yeah.
well, Chris, thank you for coming on the show again. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lots
you.
of good insight. So thank you again for coming on. And this has been another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode.